You are Locked On Ole Miss, your daily podcast on the Ole Miss Rebels. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks again for making the Locked On Ole Miss podcast your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcast, including YouTube. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. Hello, I'm Steven Willis from the Locked On Ole Miss podcast. He is Daylan Flowers. He joins the show every week to talk Ole Miss sports. And you know what? While we were waiting to go live, Ole Miss got a commitment from Pierce Clarkson from Louisville. He is a quarterback that is the son of the legendary California private quarterback coach, Steve Clarkson. I think this is a good situation, man.
Yeah, we as Ole Miss fans and in the Ole Miss perspective, you expect Austin Simmons to start next year, but healthy competition is always really needed, especially in the SEC. And moving forward, we saw a lot of emergencies where Jackson Dart had to leave the game, especially you seen the first after the first drive against Georgia, and you may need Austin Simmons to come in and give you a pretty good drive. So Pierce Clarkson can come in to Ole Miss, give Austin Simmons some healthy competition in the offseason and just help each other grow really well. But this is a raw guy out of California, like Steven said, 4-star coming out of high school, but pretty decent size, 6'1", 195, a guy that can move pretty well for his size, and has a pretty good looking arm. I know there's not a lot of talent. There's not a lot of showcase of him in college, but there's a lot of talent and video of him in high school. So if you get the chance to go watch a lot of his film, and like Steven said, a history of a dad that is known for making and producing a lot of great quarterbacks. So expect his mechanics, his fundamentals, and his basics to look really, really good. Now that, of course, will grow with more experience and more game time and more practice time with this team and with this program and what Charlie Wise Jr. and Lane Kiffin want to do. But it's exciting. I don't think the outside world may think why would he come here and blah blah blah. Well, number one, competition is always needed, but number two, like I said, it's big. You don't know the precaution of injuries. That's just the way football goes, and so you always need a guy that's comfortable back there. And for me, I love this. It's January, and we get this guy already, and so for me, he gets to come and learn and know the system as soon as possible and get here as soon as possible. So I'm excited that we got this underway early in the window, and I'm excited to see what other changes we may make in some positions on the offensive side that may be key in terms of, hey, we need a little bit more depth there if we want to continue to go far. Because I think one huge thing we saw in the Notre Dame game, is now that we're playing these extra games in the college football playoff, you're going to need a lot of depth. Injuries are going to happen a lot, especially in those later parts of the season. So this is a really big pickup for Ole Miss.
Yeah, and Pierce Clarkson, there's two things that you notice right away. First of all, when you see him move around in the pocket, even in high school, 2 hands on the football, this was one of the most fundamentally sound quarterbacks I have seen come out of high school, which is to be expected when you look at who his dad is. Second of all, I think this is a competition between him and A.J. Maddox. I do not know that he is brought in for Austin Simmons. I do think this is a competition for the backup quarterback role.
That's a great point. AJ Maddox has been here for a few years now. He's sad. He's waited his time, and he's learned the system. And again, a healthy competition. I think we've heard many good things about AJ Maddox, but obviously with the way the quarterback room has looked over the last 2 to 3 years, we have not seen him very much, if really any at all. But I love that point. That's something that I wasn't thinking about broader. And I think as well, that gives AJ a chance to say, okay, you know what? I've been here. I know this system. I know this playbook. I know how this team wants to operate. This is my chance to prove that, hey, I'm QB2. I'm a guy that can move and push the diamond a little bit for the team when I'm needed. And so that's a great point, Steven. I think that AJ is, like I said, been here for a while, and now this may be a Walker Howard and Spencer Sanders type moment in the quarterback room that's push a little bit of guys to say, hey, I need to work on this and that to be, hey, I need to be here for the next part of my career.
Yeah, and tomorrow I'm actually interviewing the Florida football scout, Brian Smith, who probably knows a good bit about Pierce Clarkson from his high school days. So I get to find out a little bit of information there. So that's coming Wednesday night as well. Now, he went to St. John Bosco, which for people that do not know, that's one of the schools that just clowns people in California. Yeah. There's Mater Dei, there's St. John Bosco, and there's one other that's just absolutely ridiculously good.
Yeah, for me, when you get guys like that, it's how do you continue to evolve them? There's one thing where a guy comes in out of high school, going to a school where he's already great, but how do you continue to evolve every single day? What's the point of emphasis for a quarterback? If you're good on your feet, if you're light on your feet, how do you improve your outside of the pocket mechanics when you need to roll out and dump the pass off? How do you improve your mechanics when you're under intense pressure and the defense is sending a lot of blitz? How do you get outside the pocket and make the smart decision to, hey, sometimes I need to throw this away instead of taking a sack? Or how do I develop my long ball and making the progression reads from the secondary better? So there's going to be things to work with Pierce Clarkson, but I'm still excited, like I said. And like Steven said as well, the raw talent is there. He has the understanding. I think he has the phenomenal basics and fundamentals and the mechanics already. It's just going to be, can we get him some more experience in game in general, but as well with this team? And I'm not worried about that at all. So this is a big pickup, and it's exciting, like I said, especially to get him in January and get things going really well, because we still have a lot of work to do in the transfer portal.
All right, when we come back, we will turn our attention to the Ole Miss Alabama game tomorrow night, talk a little bit about the LSU game, and just get an idea on Ole Miss hoops as a whole. Stick around for that. All right, this is a message from our sponsor, Intuit TurboTax. Taxes was dealing with piles of paperwork and frustrating forms, and then waiting and wondering and worrying where you were going to get any money back. Now taxes are as easy as uploading your forms to a TurboTax expert who's matched your unique tax situation, an expert who's backed by the latest technology with cross-checks that they cross-check millions of data points for 100% accuracy. While they work on your taxes, you get real-time updates on your progress. You get the most money back guaranteed, all while you go about your day. No stressing, no worrying, no waiting. This is taxes. Intuit TurboTax. Get an expert now on TurboTax.com. Only available with TurboTax Live full service. Real-time updates are only available in the iOS mobile app. And see the guarantee details at TurboTax.com/guarantees. There's nothing like the energy of being at a live game, the roar of the crowd, the sound of the sneakers squeaking on the court, and even spotting a few celebrities in the stands. I remember going to an NBA game a few years back, and the electricity in that arena was just unforgettable. You just can't replicate that watching from your couch. This year, I'm looking forward to catching more games live, and the Game Time app makes it easier than ever with their new Game Time Picks feature. Whether it's basketball, concerts, or theater, Game Time helps you find the best deals on great seats without the hassle of endless scrolling. I just hopped on the app to check out the latest tickets for an upcoming game, and the Game Time Picks feature made it a breeze to find a super deal with amazing seats. Plus, the app showed me a panoramic view so I could pick the perfect spot. No guesswork, no surprises, not just sports either. Game Time also has incredible deals on concerts and comedy shows. I'm just going to check out Midland next month. I'm planning to grab tickets to a concert, Midland, like I said, and with all in prices, I see exactly what I pay up front, no hidden fees or checkout. What I love the most about Game Time is their lowest price guarantee. If I find a better deal, they'll credit me 110% of the difference. And with an event cancellation protection, your tickets are covered even if plans change. It's the most flexible ticketing app I've ever used. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time Picks. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Again, that's code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off your first purchase. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. All right, so Daylan, I am pretty excited about where Ole Miss basketball is sitting right now. Let's go back in time a little bit and talk about the LSU game. For the third game in SEC play, Ole Miss got off to a slow start. And for the third game in a row, they absolutely dominated the second half. And when you look at the numbers of the game, Ole Miss beat LSU by 12. They shot nearly 50%, only 13 turnovers, which is actually high for this team. They kept the rebounding margin about even, and they shot pretty well from outside. And this is the thing, Daylan. This Ole Miss team can play better. There's more juice in this orange.
Yeah, you make a great point. 13 turnovers for Ole Miss against LSU, which is high. They average only 9 on the season, which is a great point that you make. And I love that you start saying by, they kind of started out slow in the first half. Matthew Morrell struggled, went over 4 in the first half, but then going into the early second half, get him a few shots in the corner and he gets his momentum back. It's going to be a fun time watching this basketball team. And I can't emphasize how big starting conference play 3-0 is. There's going to be a few SEC teams that they go 7-11 maybe in the conference play and they still make the tournament. This team and this conference is as deep as any conference in the entire nation. And for Ole Miss to be sitting 3-0 right now, with basically the roughest part, in my opinion, of the schedule coming up over the next 2-3 weeks, I can't say there's any better momentum time right now for this basketball team. Beating LSU, who I think from the fan perspective, that may be one of the lower tier teams in the conference. But like Georgia has proven already, any team can beat anybody on any given day or weekend in the SEC. So being 3-0 against Arkansas, Georgia, and LSU is huge for Ole Miss and Chris Beard. And it's going to get even tougher moving forward. But there are things to pick up, like Steven said. That first half is going to be killer. I think those first 10 minutes for Ole Miss against Alabama are going to be huge. How can you control your game? How can you take and make the right shots? How can you minimize your turnovers? And one big thing is make free throws. I think that could have elevated a few of our games already a little bit more. But if our free throw game is at almost, I would say 80 or 85% consistently, then I think this is honestly one of the best teams in the country. And if we continue to do what I think we do best, and that's inside out game, aggressive defense, then Ole Miss is really primed to take March Madness by storm in the near future this season.
Yeah, and this is one thing. If Ole Miss has a start like they did against Arkansas, it won't be 11-1. It'll be 21-1. It'll be basically the game will be over. And Ole Miss fans have had nightmares of going up to Rupp Arena and having exactly that game. Alabama's more than capable of doing it. I think it's going to be very important that Ole Miss rebounds because Alabama hits the glass hard. And I think Ole Miss's 3-point defense is going to be very, very key in this game.
Yeah, Bama's shooting about 38% from behind the arc, which is one of the best in the country this year. And honestly speaking, I'm a huge Nate O fan. He's done a phenomenal job at Alabama. There's a clip of him at the South Carolina game where his defenders don't get back, and South Carolina scores an easy transition bucket. He literally calls timeout and gets into his players about not getting back on defense. That's what an elite coach does, and it's going to be a very difficult time going to Tuscaloosa. It's going to be a rough environment in the Coleman Coliseum, but Ole Miss is definitely capable of pulling out a really big win, and not only a really big win. I think if Ole Miss is able to come out of this and scratch out a win, this sets them up for a really successful season. No matter really, the consistency that goes forward, but no matter really what happens throughout the rest of the regular season. So I'm excited, but Alabama's led by Grant Nelson and Mark Sears, so they have two All-Americans on that team that are really phenomenal on all ends. And like Steven made a really good point, we have to rebound the basketball. I thought that's something in the first half against Arkansas that we struggled, especially on the offensive rebounding side as well. How do we control our own destiny? And it starts on basic boxing out and getting rebounds, not allowing the transition play to beat us on either end. And I think if we're able to do that, then we have a very good chance against one of the best teams in the country, the Alabama Crimson Tide.
Yeah, the non-negotiable in this game is likely going to be 3-point defense. Instead of them making 40%, they're making 30%, and they're only getting one shot. You can't give them multiple bites of the apple at the 3-point range.
Well, I love that point, and it's something that I've kind of really just loved watching Chris Beard do over the last 2 years. Is we play phenomenal defense. We play aggressive on-ball defense. We hedge the screens really well. We switch and rotate really well, and we close out on the defensive side as well pretty good. So I think it's going to take all efforts of that in Tuscaloosa in a few days, and I think that. Again, a big point for me is how do we sustain those first 10 minutes of the first half? I can't emphasize this enough. We're 3-0 now. And I say that in really good confidence, but the 3 teams we play, I think that they're not going to be the type of tier team that Alabama is. So we really can't put ourselves in too big of a hole if we want to come out of Tuscaloosa with a big W.
Yeah, it's gotten to the point where you got a road game in Tuscaloosa and you got a road game in Starkville, and neither one of those. I mean, it's gotten real right now. So, Daylan, what do you got going on this week, buddy?
Oh man, people can see I'm back in my home kingdom here in Oxford, just chilling before classes start, man. Just trying to get some things going. I've been cleaning the house all day. I still got a few more things to get on and get done, but man, just enjoying my last week of freedom before classes start next week. And I still woke up this morning without my alarm. Like, oh, I guess I got to enjoy this before I got to get back to the regular routine. But, man, just relaxing and enjoying my last few days before classes start back next week.
All right. Thanks again for making the Locked On Ole Miss podcast your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcast, including YouTube. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Daylan Flowers joining the show like he does every week. Daylan, thank you, buddy. We'll talk to you next week, man.
All righty, man. Take care, y'all. Hotty toddy.
Hotty toddy.